All right, I think I'm live. Hey everyone, it's Dorka, and I'm coming to you with another live stream. I'm going to be talking with another artist. He should be here very soon. I know he had another interview just before this, so I appreciate him squeezing in the time when he gets here. Again, I apologize for is it there? The nude painting in the background. I usually try to keep it out of my shots, but today I'm just gonna leave it. I love the painting, but I know some people might not. But yeah, so it's there. And my guest has arrived. So I hope you're all having a great Sunday and get ready. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, we're live now if that's cool.
Oh yeah, sorry if I was like a minute late there.
Nope, not at all, not at all. Gave me time to kind of set it up. Not quite introduce you yet.
Great to see you, Georgia. How you doing?
Good to see you too, Christian. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you're currently working on.
My name is Cristian Aluas, and I'm a Romanian-born Canadian artist living in New York, and I've been a professional freelancer for 18 years now, and I'm working on, well, I have a couple of book projects. Actually, there's going to be a how-to book coming out soon.
Okay. For sure, for sure. Well, first off, how's your week been?
It's good. It was like not productive in certain ways, but productive in other ways.
Okay.
I think I should have. I'm still analyzing like how I could spin what kind of seemed wasteful into like something that like was helpful long term.
For sure, for sure.
I wish I could have a better answer for you.
No worries, no worries. It's always, I mean, every week is pretty unpredictable still these days until hopefully things go back to normal.
Yeah. How was yours though? I can get into maybe more detail later, but it's kind of fresh. But how was your week?
Oh, my week was fine. Yeah, kind of a little bit more productive, but in small ways. Working more on my comic project as well as yeah, just work, things like that.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So for everyone who doesn't know, Christian, Christian, right?
Technically, it's Cristian.
Christian. Okay. So Christian, he is an all-around artist. He doesn't just do comics. He also publishes nonfiction books. He also does fine art too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so one of his well-known books is It's a Living, which I have. And I've been wanting to tell you that this book helped me recently because I had a freelance gig come up and I needed to ask for a little bit more money from them.
Oh.
And yeah, and so I'm not on the right page for it, but it was basically the bit on how to ask people to pay you for your work instead of working for exposure or credit, which a lot of artists get. And so I just took a sample from the email example you gave and used it, and it helped.
Oh yeah, because I think I had one that was like, it was not derogatory, but like it was kind of there was one example that I didn't use that I published, and it was like it's like instead of like where they ask you, the example, if I remember correctly, was like they ask you to give them a free sample,
right,
so they can deem if like they should work with you. And then I say like sir or madam, how about instead of me doing the free sample, how about you pay me up front, and then if I feel like it, maybe I'll I'll do the work, or maybe not, I'll disappear without even a thank you. And does that sound fair? Because that's essentially the reverse of what you're asking for. But
right.
You can't say that because it's like it's just too rude, and you never know because sometimes you can, swing them around. Like if you talk sensibly to some people, they go, okay, this guy or this person is like, okay, they're reasonable. I can see like they could actually help my project. And all right, maybe I could like spend some money or like pay them for a sample if I still desire a sample.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the one so the one in your book was yeah, I think yeah, so one was so the client or someone was asking, "Oh, can you just work, I'll give you good exposure. Can you work for free?" And basically the response that I kind of took from yours was, could you consider a partial payment for my professional time and effort into this project? And I basically took kind of that last line and said, it was like, can you consider paying me a little bit more than what you're offering, because the work seems a bit more involved than the first project we did together. And so really helpful. And the best part is I felt good about it, because myself and I'm sure plenty of other artists are scared to ask for more money. But this made me feel good about asking for it, and they agreed to do it. So it worked out
Good.
both ways.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the way you frame things,
Yeah.
because if you kind of have to humble yourself, go like, you can't cop an attitude. It's just you're being sincere. Like, look, like this is a little bit more, like you kind of tacked on some things, but you can't even phrase it that way. There's a lot of psychology involved in
Yeah.
dealing with clients, because you can't say like, look, you tacked on these extra things, because then they're defensive because you name them.
True, true.
So it's like, looking at the project, it looks like there's some extra elements, and my time is going to add up a little bit. But then that's also sensitive, because you don't want to make it look like you're just like watching the time, and that's all,
Right.
this work is to you. So it's it's you have to be a good writer and a good psychologist to
Yeah.
work with clients.
Definitely. In the 18 years you've been doing it, does it get easier? Or is it each time something totally different?
It gets easier, yeah. Like I generally, it gets pretty easy to win projects, except sometimes where if I'm sometimes I bid too high, because I'm like
Mm,
more established now, so I
okay.
won't get certain projects because of that. So sometimes I'll get uh, clients on these like Upwork or Guru, that will message me and they say, I really like your work, but I can't. It's like out of our budget, and so so then I try to kind of keep them on the line and say like, well, what is it? Maybe we could be, like.
Mm,
Um, but sometimes I can't keep them, because they don't even want to list the price. Like last week, there was a guy kept prodding me for like, what's how much is it, how much, like sometimes like they give like a one line description of a project, and then they're already like, the client already has a bad attitude, because they're like, they know it's going to
um,
cost money, like too much money that they don't want to spend, so they
mm,
already have that attitude, like, just tell me how much so I could like get
right.
upset, like, or like, just tell me the price so I don't, like, you don't drag me along. It's a whole emotional thing for them,
Hmm.
like so so he kept prodding me for that, and I was like, I thought maybe he might have a budget, uh and then I like, he didn't give me any detail. That was a problem. Like,
Hmm.
so I don't know exactly how many parts there are to it. Like, how can I give you a price and I don't know the parts? And then sure enough, it was like a lot of moving parts, and he, like, this particular project, it was a board game, but it was like fantasy, like, and medieval stuff. And then,
Mm.
the cover itself was, it's like an army of medieval soldiers, with horseback and a castle in the back, and digital painting of this.
Whew.
And then and then there was like a back cover, and there was like a lot of little pieces, and uh, just that artwork alone is going to take me like a week, maybe a week and a half too,
Yeah.
painting. So that's, I got to account for those hours.
Yeah.
So when I told him that, he's like, it's out of my budget.
Mm.
And then I said, like, well, what is your budget? He's like, I can't disclose that. I'm like, okay, well, I can't disclose that. Either it's like you're embarrassed, or like,
You might know. You
yeah,
might know that it's not quite enough, possibly.
yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So kind of not to put you too much on the spot, what's a little bit of how you got started in art, and how did you get to this point where you've been able to freelance and make a steady living for 18 years? Like, yeah, how'd you start in art?
um, Oh, I just thought of something that I wanted to add to
Go
earlier.
for it.
Sometimes the negotiation, and I don't know if clients do it on purpose, but um, they want you to agree to a project before they give you all the information.
Oh yeah.
And I've had like I've been in lots of negotiations like that, where I've had to renegotiate. And I actually on the one of the last ones that I got like a little like an eighth of a star off, you know, because he
Mm,
agreed to everything, but like he didn't tell me what was involved until after I agreed to his price. So he's like, "Is this fine for the price?" And it was like a one sentence description, and then so I agreed with him, and I said like, "Whoa, like what?" When he handed me like, 4 Word documents, 4 pages each of
oh
descriptions of
wow.
what I had to follow, it was like, okay, like I told him I was a little overwhelmed, and
Mm.
I felt like, I didn't say tricked, but I felt like,
No, I get that.
yeah. So I negotiated, and he was like totally fine, and then but he was a bit of uh, a, a little bit of a jerk to like to not tell voice, if it was really a problem, because he probably
Right.
saw it as like, oh, I renegotiated and he already agreed to a price,
Right.
but he didn't give me the information. So I tried to explain that to him. But so that happens a lot with clients. Sometimes even repeat clients, like they want you to quote them before they tell you the information. Or like if it's a comic book,
Mhm.
they haven't shown you the script. You don't even know what you have to draw. How many
No.
pages? You have to prod this information out of them, and then they
Huh.
get frustrated when you're like, they just want to know like, what's your page rate? I'm like, it depends. Am I also gonna get a back end? Like, what the hell am I drawing? Like, do I
Yeah.
even want to work on your project? Like, So yeah. So that's it. So to answer your other question, um, how I started? Oh man, uh, well, I studied animation in
Okay.
college,
Okay.
but before then, I self-published a graphic novel while I was still in high school. I was between the ages of 17 and 18,
Nice.
and I spent like it was like the spring before I turned 18. I did the first chapter. It was 5 pages, and we printed it on a teacher's photocopier. Sold 50 copies for $1
Nice.
each in school,
Nice.
and then my buddy and I, who he did like it was a 2-story thing. So he did his own story, so it made 10 pages, and I did my first chapter, and then so he wasn't as motivated, so I tried to get him to do his chapter, and I was like, the summer went by, and like he hadn't done anything, and so then um, by the fall, I decided to I already actually finished the second chapter, another 5 pages, by the summertime, and then in the fall, I just decided to actually add 6 more pages for the finale
Nice.
and self-publish it on my own. So I did that during that time, and it was a really, really formative period in my life.
Hmm.
Uh, Very crucial. Like I was reading really deep books on the human condition and religions, and it was a lot of self-discovery.
Nice.
Um, so I did that before college, and then I went to college for animation, and mostly to be better at life drawing. Which I thought was really important as an artist. I learned like screenwriting. They had a class in that, even drama and character design. You know, animation. Like I all the tools that I still use today.
Hmm. Nice. I want that's first off, that's I always love hearing that, people, especially when you're that young and you publish something of your own and
Mm.
you just get, like you said, get a taste of doing such an involved project that early. And plus it's just like, oh man, I wish I had started doing that at your age at that time. But so it's kind of cool, like having done all these different things and taken learn all those different things in school. And do you I don't know, did it ever seem, or did you ever get criticized for being unfocused or hopping around too much? And then do you see how that all comes into play today in your life?
Who would criticize me?
I guess other
Like
adult, probably adults, because they say, hey, you got to pick a career, master that, and get a job in that.
um, you know, well, the way it affects me professionally, I wonder sometimes, is if like when I'm dealing with clients, I wonder sometimes if it affects me because I'm a little broad, and so it's like sometimes for some clients it's easier. Let's say they're assembling a comic book team, so they just want to know like you you only pencil. I want to hire a penciler. I need to match you up with an inker, and so
Mm,
like a guy like me that has done all aspects of production from like screenwriting to the editing to pencils, inks,
mm,
coloring. I usually outsource the color, and
mm,
I often do my own lettering. So and then I lay out the comic, send it out to the printer. I do proofs, and so I handle all that. I have like a few printers that I use, so I
mm.
have my own personal like research already in place. So um, so sometimes that that doesn't work with everyone. Like they don't need somebody that handles the whole production, and like when I see they need that, um I try to offer it, but then sometimes I tread carefully because I don't want to seem like I'm just like upselling them,
Mm.
trying to take all their business. But then I've had a recent client actually complain to me that I didn't upsell him because
Hmm.
as we went along in the project, it was revealed that I had a lot more experience than I let on, and then he wasted a lot of money on other graphic designers for his book cover and everything, and
Ah.
then I nailed it in like one shot, and it blew him out of the water. And he's like, and he reprimanded me. He's like, "Why didn't you tell me, like that you were good at that?" Because I wasted like, what was it, $600-700 on a graphic designer, and
Ah.
he's like, "You could have had that money." And
Oh, no.
I'm like, I said, like, I didn't want to seem like, I was like, overly hungry for your business. Like I just, like you told me you had a graphic designer. I'm like, who am I to like? He showed me the cover. I said, like, I told him what was wrong with it, and
Yeah,
uh, but I, didn't want to say like, fire that guy and hire me because that's not kind of like the way I do things.
for sure, for sure. I mean, that sounds kind of, in a weird way, like a good problem to have, but I don't know, do you feel like things will, the whole, I'm sure you've heard the term jack of all trades, master of none. I disagree with that entirely. I think
Yeah,
I like being a jack of all trades. How do you feel about being a jack of all trades?
I don't. Well, I think I am a master.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I think
Of,
I'm uh, in small circles. I'm confident to say I'm a genius.
okay, okay.
um, I think if you master one thing, you can master another because you know how to you you have the confidence to know that you can complete a project,
Mhm.
and then once you have that, you know that if you apply yourself to some other trade,
Mhm.
then you can accomplish it because it's
Yeah.
it's the application
Mhm.
that's the key. It's Yeah, it's the application because it's like, yeah, because I've done all kinds of subjects, and I think I'm excellent at everything that I've applied myself to, and I
Mhm.
don't tend to apply myself uh, to things that I don't want to do
Yeah,
fully and excellently,
yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, so for example, like I paint realistically,
Mm.
and I think I'm quite good. I have like some things that are improvements, and some realistic painters that only specialize in that. They're better than me, you know? But especially when you weigh in the fact that I've done so much more than those specialists, to be able to go into their realm and excel, I think that needs to be acclaimed.
Yeah, definitely. No, I actually, that's a great way of putting it. That if you master one thing, you can master another. I like that. That's a better way of looking at it. Um, so tell me about the comic Big Boss, because that's one of your major highlight projects, I'm guessing. Yeah, tell me more about how that started and what happened. Yeah, the
Well,
whole journey of that.
yeah, well, Big Boss is actually like a longer project than you might know, because I forget if I wrote about it in It's a Living, but that character is from my high school comic.
Okay,
So
okay.
he first appeared in high school, and in that zine, um, it was he arrives in hell and he's trying to escape. That's like kind of the premise. And but then later on, so I published it then, and then later on I worked with a writer, a comic book writer, and we came up with like an updated concept where he's an assassin, and that
Cool.
was like a few years ago, like in between 2014 and 2016.
Mm,
Actually, 20, maybe even as early as 2013 to 2015,
yeah.
because we shot the short film in 2015. So,
Oh, okay.
um, so I worked on a mini series with him, and then in 2016 I did an Instagram comic that continued on that storyline,
Mm,
and there was a kind of an innovative way of publishing it, because I published it on Instagram, one panel at a time, over the course of 13 months, each day, one panel. So, and then at the end, I compiled it into a 74-page graphic novel. So it was like a volume two. And yeah, and then he's an assassin, and as they all, like so many characters are, and he's an aging assassin, and in the graphic novel he finds out he has a daughter uh, that he never knew about, and she and her lover track him down to enact vengeance because he killed her mother. So it's like kind of like so he so to speak, hit it and quit it.
oh no.
Hit it and killed it. And then
Yeah.
she grew up in foster homes, the daughter, and she found out he's an assassin, so she trained herself to
Oh.
track him down. And they have like a very deadly and emotional uh, showdown at the end of that 5-issue miniseries.
Neat, neat. That sounds cool. Um, so did you start with comics? Was that your first major endeavor in terms of
Yeah,
publishing? And do you still do a lot of comic work, or have you kind of pivoted and do you still do a lot of comic work?
yeah. I do commercial comic book work. That's what I do. I do comics for other like authors.
Okay, okay, nice.
Yeah, that's my freelancing work. That's my specialty. I
Okay.
do comics and like graphic design and illustrations for corporate
Mhm,
clients, a couple of corporate clients, whoever like kind of cycles through seasonally.
mhm.
'Cause I'm lucky that like I'm more established, so it's like they know I'm reliable,
Yeah,
and I do, I guess, comparably good work.
for sure, for sure. Um, where does most of your work, your client work, come from? Yeah, would say.
Well, a lot of them over the years, like I've met through either a guru.com or Upwork.
Mhm.
Upwork is like kind of a newer platform for me.
Okay.
And Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, just saying. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for when I first started out, it was freelancer.com. That was like the big one. It used to actually be called Scriptlance, and actually Upwork used to be called like Odesk or something. And then they
Okay.
changed to Upwork. They changed their branding. But on what's now Freelancer, I have over 500 excellent reviews. And then Guru, I have over 200 excellent reviews. And then Upwork, which is a little newer, I'm top rated there. And I don't know how many reviews I have. But I regularly, I have a couple of clients now there. Actually, maybe it's just one right now. No, I have one that I'm mentoring, and then that's like recurring, and then there's a new client that I'm doing an animation for, and we're developing characters.
Cool.
So, but then there's a couple of recurring ones. So it's like whenever, because I try to do a really good job, and they come back. So basically, I get my clients from these platforms that over the years, and sometimes like some of them they come off the platforms, um, and um, and then I retain them. You know,
Excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we're not supposed to encourage them off the platforms, but I think some of them, like it happened, like either they reached out to me
Yeah.
separately, and then we built a relationship that way.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's definitely never underestimate the power of having like retaining clientele and having repeat customers. It's handy.
Yeah, I had
Um,
one interesting client. Like it was like a one-off thing in late November. He
mhm.
found me online, and he just did his own research, and then he messaged me on Facebook, and he commissioned me for 2 oil portraits before
Awesome.
Christmas. And that
Excellent.
was a
Excellent.
very good, uh, very good client. But he found me like, so sometimes I'm found like that. He
Yeah.
did his own research, like he had something in mind of the style he wanted.
Mhm.
I think it was like a snapshot out of some 3D animated film
Neat.
of like an image, and then he wanted like his girlfriend and him together in that way.
Nice.
And then he just did his own research and found me, and he got lucky because I really delivered.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask. Is there ever? Is there a platform where you're surprised? Like, how do people find you? Obviously, like you say, you have your main ones, but has there been a surprise avenue where someone said, "Hey, I saw you on this," and you're like, "Oh, okay."
Um, Surprise one. No, not that I'm surprised. Usually, like
Good.
it's
No,
like
that's
they
good.
won't. The one in the Facebook experience it's kind of unusual for me because usually I have to seek the work.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's like people won't find me if I don't put myself out there.
Okay.
So I put a portfolio up, and then I actively bid. I haven't really had great success with Fiverr,
Mm,
um, but I'm extremely uncomfortable like selling work for so little.
right. I mean, I guess the idea. I don't know how it works, but I know there are definitely like pro levels. If I don't know how if it takes time to get to that level or not, but there are pro levels where you can charge much higher work. And it is a big difference. Someone did a video comparing like doing the $5, $10 gig from someone and then doing like the pro, which is an $850 job. And it was a big
I've
difference.
seen a similar video. Yeah,
Yeah.
they in the end they said it was worth it. Like
Yeah.
it was quite a difference.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that game, that's funny you say that because that game example that mentioned with the client I was negotiating with last week,
Mhm.
the reason he already had the artwork for the game, but the reason he was looking for another artist was that artist copied everything from the internet.
No. Ugh.
Yeah. So he paid some artist really cheap, you know,
Mhm.
and and this artist, like, I think I don't know if he said he referenced, so it's like, so he did original digital art, but he referenced it that like people could find it, and it's like, oh, that's a copy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
then he had to redo it. So that's what you get, like because when an artist has to spend a long time on something, they have to cut corners,
Yeah.
and you know, and then you can find yourself in a position where you're stuck with art that's not original.
Yeah. And you pay for it because someone
Yes.
could sue you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the trouble.
definitely. So given that you say you're working on an animation project, but also given that you do so many different types of art, what are some of your mediums? I'm especially curious about what do you use for animation and
Well, uh, Georgia, like, I don't actually animate myself now. So,
Mhm,
because I don't want to bog down my computer, but
mhm,
when I do, what I do is I'll do the storyboards, usually very tight, because I work with currently two separate animators. One's
nice.
in India, and we've done like over 30 projects together for one
Mhm.
particular client. They're all like 1 minute short animations.
Nice.
And the other one is in Las Vegas, and so the guy in India uses Animate, Adobe Animate, which used to be
Okay.
Macromedia Flash,
Yeah.
and it has a different look. And then the guy in Las Vegas uses After Effects,
Okay.
so that also has a different look. And I've switched them sometimes because the guy in India is a little less expensive. So one client, I started with the guy in Las Vegas. He was more. Then for one of the episodes, I switched them, and it was noticeable. She didn't like that. So
Mm.
then I'm back. So now now I have two clients for animation where like the new client that I'm gonna be doing a show for. I'm developing characters from Upwork. I'm deciding to use even if I'm paying more, I'm going to use the guy in Las Vegas. Um, I forget what the reason was. I think it's like the communication.
Mhm.
It's like so. And then for the other shows, I'm going to keep the guy in India. So I kind of like had to make those choices. Like who to
Mhm.
work with. But the
Right.
point is that like I have to draw my storyboards pretty tight for them to follow, because and then I have to kind of sometimes prod them to like touch up things because they're not as precise as they need to be.
Hmm.
So the tighter my storyboards are, the better the animation is. And sometimes I have to do keyframes, so I don't just do like one storyboard. I have to do like a couple of poses in the action,
Gotcha.
just because so they don't screw it up. You know. So
Mhm.
it involves more work for me, and then I manage that, and then usually both of them they kind of push work to me like a little too early, like they don't screen it properly, so they're just
Mhm.
like trying to get paid,
Hmm.
they're not passionate about it, which is frustrating because like you, you have to take pride in your job, so
Yeah.
they'll try to pass things, and then I have to like make requests because I don't have those programs installed.
Yeah.
So I have to make requests.
Gotcha. Um, but okay. So you said you do a character designing. I think that's what you're kind of doing. What do you use to do your
Oh,
programs and tools?
I use my tablet, which
Hmm.
I'm speaking on now.
Oh,
So it's an iPad Pro. I sketch it in Procreate, and then we rig the characters in Adobe Illustrator, and then
okay.
so they're rendered as a vector, and then they're rigged, like they have like so the arms can move, so there's like joints,
Yeah.
you know, so they're
Neat.
ready, and then I do a lip sync. So it's like there's
Okay.
a character model sheet. The one that I did so far was like the main character, full body pose, and then a couple of headshots with different like expressions, just kind of maybe the animator can use them later,
Hmm.
and then like a lip sync, the mouth and different movements and all the letters that are corresponding.
Nice. Yeah. And you say you also do oil painting. Do you do other types of mediums? And also, I guess, what oil paints do you like to use?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of oil painting. I mostly do the oil paintings, excuse me, for me.
Hmm.
Um, Occasionally I sell them, and then I get a commissions.
Nice.
But mostly like the stuff that's in the background here.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I see.
that sculpture up there, that's mine too.
Okay. What is it? A propeller?
It's a it's kind of I don't know. It's made out of steel, so it's actually a construction. It's a freestanding work, so it's not
Okay.
sculpted per se. It's constructed.
Mhm.
It's not a propeller. It's less like it's kind of a homage in the middle, so you could put stones in the middle,
Okay.
so and it can be displayed like I have it, or it
Hmm.
can be displayed on a table with a wide space, and then there's two anchors at the end that curve like that, and it's just sprawled out, and it's really beautiful in the right
Oh,
space.
yeah. No, because I wasn't sure because I mean I like it and I like how you can. It's the one where you're hanging the lights from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, okay.
So the oil paints.
Mhm.
I've been doing some new paintings recently.
Mhm.
I have a few canvases. Like I bought a couple of years ago. Well, actually, maybe more. I when I'm anyway, I have like a space above my bed, and years ago I bought these five tall pieces that are all connected. And it's like it's a globe. It's like the
Mhm.
map of the world. It's kind of stylized. It's something you get in like home goods or something, you know.
Okay.
So I bought these pieces, and my plan all along was like to repaint over those, to use the canvases and paint over them.
Cool.
And finally, I'm getting around to that, and I have ideas, and I've done two of the paintings already, and they turn out really, really good.
Mhm.
But I'm using mixed media in one way because it's mostly oil, but
Mhm.
I prime them to cover, and then I tried to start with oil after that, but it wasn't right. And then so I took some spray paint, and then
Mhm.
I spray painted like patterns. I went out in the park across the street and I spray painted patterns, and uh, and then I looked at the piece and and then I also had a model pose, and I took a lot of reference photographs, and I did several drawings.
Yeah.
So then I was like looking at the poses and trying to think where I could use them for the paintings. And then
Mhm.
finally, I did a couple of nice ones, and then I have a couple more. So to answer your question about like what type of oil painter I use,
Mhm.
mostly use a brand called Vasari, and they're
Okay.
made in Chelsea. They have a studio in Chelsea, and they're made by hand, and they're
Nice.
high quality paints. Um, you know, like yeah, they're more expensive.
Yeah. No, of
um,
course. No, yeah, I've heard. I always hear good things about handmade paints of different types of mediums. Yeah, and they always look very, very beautiful and distinct
yeah,
from
they
just.
have good, strong pigments, not a lot of filler.
Mm.
You know, I'm really happy with them, and like the colors stay longer because like
Mhm.
with oil paint, if you have more filler, the color fades and everything just grays. You know,
Yeah,
so the quality of the pigment is very important.
definitely, definitely. So in your book, I believe it's in your book, you say that for every job you do for hire, you should do something for yourself. And I definitely kind of get in that sense. Like we've talked, like you're doing these freelance gigs, and this is how you navigate that. And now you've also got your own personal pieces. You've got, I mean, what does that mean? For every job you do, you should do something for yourself. To just someone maybe who's never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like what happened this week. I was spending a lot of time on myself, and I couldn't stop. You know, and I had a new storyboard to do, and I was doing a couple of things for clients, but I didn't do anything on this new storyboard, and I
Mhm.
kind of had to apologize. I don't apologize, but like I usually say, thanks for your patience. I'm working on
Right.
it, but he's not like he's not demanding. He likes things in a certain schedule,
Mhm.
but he's not demanding. So what I mean by that phrase is that you should try to build your own intellectual property,
Mhm.
because as a freelancer, um, it's it can be depressing, like if you're just working, and you're
Yeah.
working for other people and you own nothing, and then once the job is done, you got to look for new work. So it's like you if you're like me, and I think there was some trouble in that formative time when I was working on that comic book when I was 17 and 18, and I was reading Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and you know uh, like these religious books and
Mhm.
psychology books. I was reading Friedrich Nietzsche, and about willpower and determinism and things. So that wasn't good for me, because I live my life, and I do a lot of self analysis, and so then I do these jobs, and it makes me think, like, what do I have in the end? Like,
Mhm.
I, all I have is like the 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 anxiety to get another job to like pay my bills,
Yeah.
after one is done. So then my long term goal has always been to build intellectual property, that I could have products, books, whether it's graphic novels or books, or even designs or artworks that I could
Mhm.
reprint and resell and market, like
Yeah.
proudly,
Yeah.
So like, I don't see myself as like one of these artists that, or people that, like, oh, I want to write an autobiography.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to write, oh, I should write a book about myself. And they write like, and they self-publish like a first draft of something. And,
Oh yeah.
and then that's it, they've done it, and,
Yeah.
it disappears. So, I mean, that's why I wrote It's a Living, in a way to try to help others, so to add some value and not just be only like a memoir of what I feel are like sentimental things to me, you know?
Mhm.
It's, there's more, uh, like it's focused, to the
Mhm.
freelancing part of my life, and the things that I've learned that can help others. So, um, yeah, so I guess that's what I mean. Like, you have to create something for yourself, so you leave this life, and you're not just like remembered as well as nothing. You're like, you might not be remembered, and it's very likely that I'm not going to be remembered. You know,
Mhm.
um, like, there's so many people, and really, it's only the evil ones that really last.
Yeah.
Like, who do we remember? Napoleon, Stalin, you
Oh
know,
gosh. Yeah.
the one that shall not be named, and then
Mhm.
like, we only remember these like devastating figures, and the occasional literary ones,
Yeah.
So, artists, there's a lot of hope for artists and innovators. So,
Mhm.
the point is, like, yeah, that's why. I mean, to to me, it's like, whatever, even if it doesn't achieve the sort of notoriety that, like, that's compared to somebody else that, you would deem like, oh, okay, that guy's really successful.
Yeah.
um i I want to feel like whatever I create is like really great,
Yeah.
and that's important to me.
Yeah.
So, as a human being, that I'm not living my life without purpose, that I'm just reacting to situations, like, oh, my job is done, now I have to look for a new job. That's
Yeah.
a reaction. I want to, like, if you, and also if you have properties for yourself, like one of the things I was doing this week was I remembered that I have an Amazon merch account.
Mhm.
So, well, I have a Redbubble also, so I sell designs on Redbubble. So
Okay.
so then what I decided to do is like try to post some of the popular designs that I sell on Redbubble on
Hmm.
Amazon merch because it was just sitting there. I try to post a couple of things, but they're really strict about things. Like they didn't let me post an original painting of and design of
Really?
Friedrich Nietzsche because I have one of Friedrich Nietzsche, but he's long dead. Like nobody owns the rights
Yeah.
to this, So they didn't allow that. So we're kind of strict. So that's why I didn't post that often. But anyway, that's one of the things I do. So then every time like I get like a deposit into either PayPal or my bank from either online courses that I have or
Mm.
from Redbubble. Um, those are times where like, oh, okay, well, I could take a day off easily because that pays for my day off where I could just brainstorm of new strategies, for I could how I can make more income and have more time to think and be creative.
Sorry, I had to mute my mic for a second. Um, yeah, and that um, yeah, I think that's great. I think, and also, the reason people get into art is because they enjoy doing it for themselves. Most likely, if you started when you were young, you're just doing it for yourself, not just to not just to do other people's work, other people's projects. Um, and so, how do you make time? Kind of, I guess, more practically, and it's maybe a smaller version. How do you make time to do your own work when you have client projects? And you, like you say, you got to pay your bills. How would you recommend someone make time to do their own work?
Oh, well, that's a good question, Georgia. And my quick answer to that is just to make a schedule.
Okay.
Um, because I put it on a schedule. So it's like, let's see. So then I have like a book. I have like a couple of books. So I have this, and this is one spread of what I was working on this week.
Hmm.
That's one spread, and then there's this, and this.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so there was 3 pages of what I was trying to figure out this week uh, for like my business
Hmm.
because it's about launching new products, like new courses that I plan to update and my upcoming books and how to launch them. And I was speaking with a couple of people, and then I have another book here that's this is my schedule book. The first one is a schedule book, so I'll show you the schedule after. And then
Hmm.
and this one is like this is for my oh, you can't see it,
Oh
but
yeah.
this is for my cartooning how-to book that I'm
Okay.
writing.
Yeah.
And so then I have all the chapters, and it's like a checklist that like if I'm covering all the curriculum correctly. But I'm working from a previous curriculum from my art school in Canada. So I had a
Hmm.
curriculum and I started with that and some handouts that I had in classes from those. And then I outlined everything like to make sure everything is like, for the book, the all the items in the book are there. So I have this, and this is for general ideas, and I write ideas for like plots, like for
Yeah.
books and things like that. I write them out. Also, I'll sometimes write how long something will take. Like I had a book idea, and I broke down in a notebook
Mm-hmm.
how many hours each task would take for me to finish the book. If I did it full time. So I just
Yeah.
and then I analyze like the market that is available for it.
Hmm.
So so then with this is, let's see, I have to find a better like page because some yeah. So then this is a kind of a good one. So oh, it's hard to tell.
Okay.
I
Yeah. I see it.
mean, so it's the I don't want to like totally focus on the details.
That's
But
fine.
but what it has is like, it's like this thing that I got at Staples,
Hmm.
and so it's broken down into sections. So I have my own personal tasks,
Hmm.
and one of them was like audio editing because I'm editing uh, an audio version of my book.
Yeah.
It's a living. So then I'm meant to devote like 2 hours each day, and then I have little check marks there. So
Hmm.
this is a good week. I actually did it.
Good. Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to. And then I had like life drawing. I didn't do any of the life drawing
Mhm.
because it was like life drawing for, I think it was for one of the books, but I ended up working on something else.
Nice.
And then promotion and sales, I have like check marks for that. So, and then I have clients, listed here, and then I have check marks. But then there's other ones uh, where uh, I don't know if I'm going on a tangent now.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
um, okay. Oh yeah, this is good. Yeah, so I had like, so I have my clients listed, and I have my own stuff. That's the
Mm.
quick answer. Like
Yeah.
I make a list of not only like the client's work, so I break it down into like one client preliminary and then the final. So I check mark that.
Okay.
Because I just kind of just so I can put the check mark. It helps me.
Yeah.
Um, it
Really.
gives me satisfaction, like I've accomplished things.
Yeah. I like that.
But
It's
if
a
I
good.
don't, then I feel bad the next week, and then that's.
No, I think that's. I like that. I like that. It's. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it. I can see how it's challenging, but
Mm.
it's. It really, like you said, it comes down to something simple. Just make a schedule and make the time for it.
Yeah, and sometimes I start new projects. Like the last couple of weeks have been kind of strange that way because I've been brainstorming quite a lot and not really focusing on the client projects have been less to some extent. But
Mhm.
I'm at a point in my career now where like I sometimes feel like I'm underachieving in a way because it's like here's the thing: it's like if I was only after the money, then I could not do my personal projects, and I
Nice.
could easily devote double the time and potentially make double the income just on
Mhm.
working. But the beauty of uh, having products for residual income is that if you can make a product that, let's say it's a popular book with, obviously you have to spend on marketing because nobody's going to find you otherwise,
Yeah.
just on SEO, they're not going to find you. So if it's a popular book, it could sell without you doing anything, you know. And
Yeah.
why wouldn't you rather that? And then if you can get yourself to a point where like, and that's what I'd like to do is like get to a point where that's all I'm doing. It's like then I'm just creating content that I'm interested in. But
Hmm.
but the thing is that in reality it's kind of an impossibility because you always have to like think of your market. Like even fiction writers, they write to their market what they want and
Yeah.
they get feedback from their readers. So as much as we imagine that, oh, it's like there's this absolute freedom and you can write about just about anything, and you know um, you have to write what people want. So, and sorry if I'm going along, but there's one last thing that came to mind about
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
is um there was like I was watching an interview with some celebrity like from the 40s and 50s. So now she's like much older. She said like at one point she got an offer. It wasn't like a big contract, but by a publisher to write a memoir.
Mhm.
And she was thinking about it, and so she wrote down like an outline of things that she wanted to write about. And then so they said like, oh, this is not going to sell because what you have to, yeah, what we need you to write about is like dirty details about like the celebrities you dated,
Oh, of
and she's like, well,
course.
I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, like, then I don't know, we're not going to be able to sell it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the funny part. It's like sometimes, these celebrity books, you have to imagine that, like, because I always wonder, like, why the hell are they writing about that? They must have something like more interesting than writing like old stories about like, their success,
Yeah.
like in their gossipy stuff. It's because
Yeah.
they're prodded by publishers that's
Oh,
what the readers want.
for sure. I wonder, how you saying that, I wonder if there is some benefit to a degree of doing work that you like doing it because sometimes you just need to do the work, not always just working on things you want to. Like for myself, I always thought I want to get to a point where I don't have to do any freelancing work for other people. I just want to focus on my own properties. But then I got, this quick freelancing gig doing something for a local business and I really enjoyed it. And I actually had satisfaction. Like, yeah, I hopefully created a video for them that is better than what they had before.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, yeah, if there's benefit in doing work that isn't just for yourself. And maybe
Oh,
it's healthy too,
there
because
is.
you know.
Can you? My throat is so dry.
Oh, sure.
You might have to edit this, but
No, take your time.
I need to get some water. Okay, I had one sip. Hopefully that'll hold me.
No worries. Yeah, no, I won't keep you much longer.
But yeah, absolutely. There's satisfaction, and I have a lot of moments where I love to help people, like that client that I helped with the cover. It was kind of it's not out yet, so I can't share it. I can't even tell the title, but it's a really good cover.
That's good.
So what happened was he showed me this bad cover by the designer, and I did interior illustrations for the book as well. And sometimes like, oh yeah, well there were a couple of instances with him, because he's like an independent guy. He's got a regular job, and this is his dream project, and he's put a lot of money into it, So I remember like for one of the interior illustrations, there was one where he said like, it's like, this is like a maybe. He's like, I don't even know if I should spend money on this, because like, so he gave me like, it was like a family, it was a family setting of one of the main characters with the family in the background. And, the characters like sketching in a comic book, or he's sketching in a sketchbook, and everybody's like watching, it's set in the 70s, so everybody's watching like Soul Train and like dancing and playing cards in the background,
Mhm.
And so he's like, I'm not sure if I should spend, so he's like, how much would it be, So I tell him the price, and he gets upset, and he's like, he offered me like I think like half or something like that, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, um, uh, well, he said like no. He just told me no, like, and he's like, he's like, I'll give you this. I'm like, oh, all right. I said, all right. And then, so then what I did was, there was like that setting. So he gave me like, actually, that was another incident where I agreed to no, I think I agreed to the price before he gave me the description of how many characters were in the scene.
Oh,
So then I was like, like I told him you're pushing it, but we have a good relationship. So he kind of, so what happened was I did the drawing, but then I did two. I didn't tell him I did two. Like, what happened was like I did one sketch to figure out where everybody was in the setting, but then it was a bad composition, So I drew everybody in like it's like two rooms, the living room, and you could still see through the kitchen, So I drew it all like kind of like almost like a top view, like, and but it's a terrible composition. So then I moved the camera down, so the kid is like on the ground, and it's like with the sketchbook and like right in front, he's like this sketching, like laying down, and then all the characters are kind of above him, so it's like an upshot, and you see it. It's like beautiful.
Cool.
So then, and then when I sent him the final thing, like you have no idea how happy this guy was. He's like, he was like, he was so glad. He's like, I'm so glad that I asked you to do this. You know, it's so amazing. Like, it's just like literally like he like sent me like a message with like capitals, everything. And then he texted me like, oh my God, he tried to call me like to tell me how great it was, you
That's
know?
cool.
So, I mean, it's thrilling. And then the cover was another one where like I saw the bad design, and then yeah, I told him the quote. He he thought it was too much. I told him the value of why it's that much, because a cover,
Yeah.
you know, like there's minimums for a cover. Like a cover is like I start at 625, you know,
Mhm.
for a cover, because it sells the freaking book.
Yeah.
you know, you know,
It's the first thing people see. Yeah.
yeah.
Cover's
Even if it
important.
takes me 2 hours, which this didn't, you know, it sells the freaking book.
Yeah.
And so, and you're, you know, like I have research behind me. So anyway, so I saw his old cover. It was like not great. I tried to pitch him on this idea, you know, over the phone, and I said, "I'll tell you what. I'll send you a watermarked sketch of this, and I want you to just use the sketch. Ask like your friends to look at the sketch and
Hmm.
look at like just the sketch and ask them if they would rather me develop the sketch." So he didn't do that, you know, but I think he eventually showed his wife, and the wife decided to pay for the illustration.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
so he's like, ah, no, my wife wants this, but I still think it's like a bad idea, and I want, you know, he wanted things his way, so I did another version of his. And then when I sent this to him, like it, like literally, I like you could picture like, you know, like a teapot, you know, like his head flying off, you know. Uh, it blew his mind. Like
That's cool.
again, like he's like, you know, going nuts. And that's when he got mad. He's like, why didn't you tell me you could design? You know, I wasted all this money on this designer.
Mm,
So that's one of those like, you know, amazing stories. Yeah, it's extremely satisfying, you know, like,
yeah.
and he's a good client because um you know, like like I said, he's a modest guy, but like he's got kind of a tight wallet, but he's really easy to communicate. And you know, when I explain things to him, he knows. And
Yeah.
he's actually, I commended him a lot because he's made very wise decisions. And I told him not just hiring me, but he worked with a very good editor as well.
Excellent.
And so I told him, like, you know, this is going to be a great project because
Awesome.
you made some great decisions bringing on like very talented people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And sometimes pride can get in the way of that.
Totally. Yeah, well, hopefully you can reveal the project soon yourself when it comes out. Now I'm very curious after hearing the story behind it.
I'm very likely gonna share it on Facebook, because
I'll keep
I
an eye out.
especially love the cover. So, and
Cool.
I told him I was gonna help him out, you know.
Excellent. So my last question for you is, what kind of, I guess, what's one word you use that you want to live by, especially with your art, your own personal art, and also what's a word you want people to think when they see your art?
Well, I've always loved the word brilliant.
Hmm.
It's like it it's like a British phrase, you know.
Hmm.
The British people like use it a lot. It's like, oh, that's brilliant, you know, like it's it can mean like it's smart, you know,
Hmm.
but even in terms of like color, it's like
Yeah.
it's bright, you know. It's like it's rich
Yeah.
with color and vibrancy, you know.
Hmm.
It has so many positive connotations, you know.
Yeah.
So
Never thought of it that way. I like that.
yeah, it's a very positive word. So I've always liked that word. I've always wondered like how I can use it in like branding or something like that. Like I thought about maybe my art school, but it's just like, it's just such a, it's almost like you need to be like a big company to like, like Nike, brilliant, like it's like one of those kind of words, um, but I've always loved that. I mean, I don't know if it helps people like day to day, like artists or writers day to day, brilliant. So, but I mean, the way I would spin it, on a personal level is to say that like you should just try to make amazing things, like really try. And you just have to really apply yourself to everything you do, um, because it counts. It counts, and you could develop, and you have to enjoy the process and enjoy watching yourself grow and develop, because
Mhm.
being an artist is like a little bit different than other careers. It's not like sports, you peak physically, and then it's a sharp decline,
Yeah.
injuries, sharp decline. And same with like income and all these things with those careers.
Hmm.
um I feel like with art it's like wine, like a vineyard, because like a vineyard has a long span. Like I think it's a bit over 100 years, a
Well,
vineyard.
yeah.
And when it's young, it's not very good. The grapes don't make good wine, but then peaks. Then it has a long, long like life when it's at its peak, the vineyard, and it's
Hmm.
dependent on seasons and such. And then when it's in decline, the grapes are not as great, but still you can squeeze out a lot of decent wine out of it. So I look at other like artist careers that I've admired, and a lot of them are like fine artists. Like
Hmm.
Picasso did fantastic work late into his life, and he
Yeah.
lived to early '90s. So did Salvador Dali,
Hmm.
and Salvador Dali I think is like more exceptional, like technically, you know.
Okay. Hmm.
So I look at that, and like they're smart guys that were productive, and they tried new things. Like Picasso did pottery, and he built that weird goat, out of like clay or something. I saw it
Hmm.
in
I
an
haven't seen that
exhibit.
one.
Yeah, he built like this lifelike goat. I think it was bronze. So like he was just in, like this was his 60s or something like that. So he went into this like pottery and like sculpture phase, and I don't know. I mean, like you're exploring, So it's like the freelancing to me is like, you know, I'm making a living, and it's really good, and I don't think I'd ever turn down clients. Like I think I'd love to do commissions.
Hmm.
I just like I'm always have an idea of like the type of clients that I want. You know, so I got lucky like with the client that found me on Facebook, like I mentioned.
Hmm.
That's exactly the sort of client I would love. All
Yeah.
the time. Like
Definitely.
trusted me, um, was amazing to communicate with, um, had a realistic budget,
Hmm.
which made it easier for me to not like try to cut corners. And and then I set standards for myself, like
Yeah.
to deliver, and keep my word, and keep, work towards a schedule, and I worked hard during that time because I had to uh, make sure it was dried and delivered by a certain date. So
Yeah.
I had to drop just about everything and to work every day, because there was a point where like if I if I watched like a YouTube show for an extra half hour,
Hmm.
it it meant I wasn't going to meet my deadline.
Right.
It was like
Okay.
really that fine, because I remember calculating it like as I was working on it. It was really like there was a fine line.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
so just like set a standard for yourself, and and like to do great work, and then be flexible, uh, but keep keep having like some sort of goal and meaning towards your life. you know, don't let go of trying to be better. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Well, I think that is like the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Georgia. That was great.
No, thank you. No, thank you for making the time, for giving such great information and just sharing parts of yourself with us.
Yeah, this was a really lovely Sunday. I loved
Yeah,
it.
definitely. Thank you. Especially since you just came off another interview. So thank you again.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm kind of like relaxed because I'm a little worn down from like the other
Okay,
one.
good.
But it's nice. I enjoy myself.
Excellent. All right. Well, everyone, that's Christian. Links to his site and his book on Amazon, It's a Living, is in the description below. If there are any other links he wants me to include, I'll add them as well. But go check out his work. I think he gave a lot of great information here, and I think you'll learn even more by diving into the things he's created. So thank you. Everyone have a great Sunday, and I will see you next time.
Thanks.